Most Canadians will never own property. And that's not a prediction meant to scare you. It's an observation based on the path that most people are on right now. And the problem isn't just prices, it's not just interest rates, and it's not just government regulation. The real issue is that most people are following a default path without really realizing where it ends. Today, I want to break down why most Canadians won't own property, and more importantly, how to avoid becoming a part of the statistic. So let me tell you why this is happening. Let's look at the big picture. Canada has quietly become an asset-based economy. If you own assets, especially real estate, you tend to move forward. And if you don't, well, you're often running just the same place. And it's no surprise, nothing new, that home prices have actually increased faster than income for decades. That's not new, it's structural. And at the same time, the cost of living keeps going up, higher debt load has become normalized, and financial decisions are becoming more increasingly emotional. Most people aren't operating based on a long-term financial framework. They're operating based on headlines, they react to fear, and they wait for certainty in a system that will never give you certainty. And the system doesn't punish that behavior right away. It feels comfortable for years, but that's why it's so dangerous. So let's talk about the default path that I just mentioned, like the standard path that most Canadians take. It usually looks something like this. You rent, which feels flexible and safe, and you'll tell yourself you'll buy when things feel right, when you feel ready. You wait for prices to come down. You wait for rates to drop. You wait to feel more ready, more confident. Meanwhile, life keeps happening. Rent increases, lifestyle gets more expensive, and savings do not scale the same way assets do. Depending on where you have your money, it actually might be getting outpaced by inflation. And here's the key point that a lot of people miss. Doing nothing is still a decision. It's your decision just to stand by on the sidelines. And I know it doesn't really feel like one because waiting feels cautious, it feels responsible, it feels smart. But in the long run, waiting locks people into a path that becomes increasingly harder to escape from. And it's not because the person failed. Nobody's failed. They just didn't stop to ask if this path was the right one that they should be on. So that's the Canadian standard. But let's talk about why this is important. Because in my experience, what I just mentioned, is rarely the full story. The real barriers are a lack of clarity, fear of making the wrong decision, expecting perfect conditions, and not really understanding how leverage works in the first place. People are asking themselves, can I buy right now? But the better question to ask yourself is, what needs to change in order for me to buy? Without a plan, fear fills the gap, and fear almost always results in inaction. And the irony is that the system usually rewards imperfect action rather than perfect waiting. So let me tell you where the shift happens. Avoiding the default standard path doesn't mean that you're rushing into the market to buy a home. It just means you're being more intentional with your actions, with your moves. And this is what that looks like. First, stop waiting for permission from the market. Markets don't send invitations. People just capitalize on opportunities. Second, replace hope with a timeline. Hope says one day. A timeline tells you what needs to happen next in order to get to your goal. Third, understand leverage instead of just fearing it. And don't get me wrong, used recklessly, it's very dangerous, but used intentionally is how people build wealth in an asset-based economy. And lastly, stop aiming for perfect. Perfect is usually just fear dressed up as logic. It's one, not attainable, and two, not gonna get you anywhere. Progress is what compounds, perfection stalls every single time. And this is where I'll say it plainly. Don't be a statistic, be deliberate. So this video isn't trying to convince you to buy a home tomorrow, but it's just trying to break any limiting beliefs you have on ever achieving that goal. It's about helping you see the path clearly, because most Canadians won't own property. Not because they couldn't have, but because they never took off their blinders and stepped off the default path. If you're currently renting or unsure what's possible, that doesn't mean you're behind. It just means now would be a pretty good time for you to get more clarity. So here's my question for you. Do you think home ownership is possible where you live? Drop it in the comments because I really want to see. P.S. If you said no, that's the wrong answer. And listen, if you want clarity instead of the noise, a plan instead of guessing, you know where to find me. Check out my website or book a call through Instagram. And with that being said, have a great day and don't be a statistic.